Nick, nice to be talking to you. Some technical issues. As I say, it's not the police's fault. This is not the police jamming our signal. It's got something to do with some new tech in the car or something like that. That's what you're...
That's right. Me being a Luddite, I'm not very good around technology, but I'm back.
Okay, I am glad you're back. And an important topic that we're talking about today. Now, the team at Pillar are making a submission to the Police Amendment Bill. Talk to us. There's some reasonable things in the bill, but also some very concerning things. What are you guys at Pillar, what are you concerned about with the bill?
Yeah, so our concerns are twofold. There are two aspects to the amendment, which, first of all, seem entirely reasonable in principle, where one of them is we want police to be able to have the ability to monitor, to record things that are going on in their ordinary line of duty. And that means using cameras and video. Being able to do that.
Yep.
Police being able to shut down streets and public areas, car parks, particularly for reasons of public safety when it comes to, say, boy racers who are hooning around and posing a risk to public safety. But the problems with these two proposed amendments, the first is when it comes to recording people, the wording in this amendment is extremely vague and very broad, and it really gives police powers to record whenever they want, to switch it on when they want, switch it off when they want. And so we're saying, look, we don't necessarily need 24/7 camera footage all the time. That poses privacy issues. But if you are going to use the camera selectively, then make it really clear as to when it is appropriate, when it is required. And at the moment, the language is far too vague. It gives police complete discretion as to when they use it and when they don't. And that can mean that you get a very selective narrative when they do present evidence in the form of video and recordings. So that's the first issue.
Yeah. I mean, that is a big one in itself, and there's some safeguards in place. Look, if in these sorts of situations you need permission from a judge at the moment, and there needs to be some clear protocol on this, and there's some instances where it can happen and some where it can't. Basically, we're saying, just whenever, bro, it's up to you. Don't need to involve the judiciary. And that just ties everything up in red tape. We trust you. And honestly, this legislation isn't doing anything to improve public trust in the police force.
Yeah, we don't want the police to be toothless. We want them to have some power in order to carry out their ordinary duties. Having said that, we've got fairly good provisions in place, and there is a certain amount of recording that goes on anyway in the course of their work. But we need it to be clearly defined. And I think that's the issue here, is that we're getting a lot of legislation, and not just this one, but lots of bills that are being rushed through. When I was being taught to do carpentry as a youngster, my godfather was my carpentry teacher. And he would always say to me the old carpentry adage, measure twice, cut once.
Yep.
Unfortunately, we're seeing our politicians go in with a very hasty, a very cobbled together approach when it comes to new legislation. And we need more forethought. We need to have more kind of debate and investigation into these things before we rush it through as law. The second problem, I suppose, I've identified here is when it comes to shutting down streets and car parks and public areas where there might be danger posed by, say, the people in vehicles.
Yep.
They've also included the ability to stop pedestrians from accessing certain areas. Now, this is not roping off a crime scene. We're not talking about there's been a homicide and you need to put the police tape around the perimeter. We're talking about streets, car parks, public areas where police can just suddenly go, no, you can't go through there because we believe that there might be a risk of some sort because someone's being silly in their car. Now, again, on the face of it, seems like common sense. It seems good. But the trouble is we're seeing that, again, with this wording, it's far too vague, far too broad, and it could be used in virtually any situation where the police thought there might be some problem. And we've dealt with this problem with move-on orders when it comes to the homeless, people sleeping rough. That effectively, that also would give police extremely broad powers to move people on, not simply because they are sleeping rough in, say, in a shop entrance and actually posing an obstacle to people getting into the shop. But you could interpret it much more broadly than that if you wanted.
Yep.
So, again, we want our police to be able to do their job, but we're not giving them carte blanche. We're not saying you can just go and do whatever you want with these powers, however you see fit. There has to be a clear, intuitive, common sense application when it comes to this stuff. And the politicians need to do a bit more prep when they come to putting this stuff together and formulating the phrasing in these bills and these amendments.
And, of course, public spaces are public spaces. This proposed bill would potentially take away the rights of people to be in public spaces and at the police discretion. And some scenarios come to mind where there's a protest in town, some people who have a different point of view. They want to do a counter-protest. The police say, no, we don't want that. That may cause trouble. So really taking away not only freedom of movement, but freedom of speech in that regard. This is where we could be going with this one.
Protests could be very, very seriously affected by these sorts of rushed pieces of legislation.
So the good thing is that we do have a representative democracy. Okay, this is an idea that's been put forward by the government for consideration, but it's now at select committee and you're holding the fort, but some other members of the team at Pillar, they're in that, perhaps it's quite comedic that the process is called submitting on this one because the nature of the legislation, but Pillar is certainly giving a submission to the select committee on this?
Yeah, that's right. And as always, we're going down to Wellington. We're making it really clear that unless politicians get really serious and spend some time looking at the detail, giving attention to detail, we're going to continue to see problems where, as we saw in the debate for this amendment already, the policing amendment, that politicians are standing up in Parliament and saying, look, don't worry, we mean well. And hey, if there are any sort of kinks in this piece of legislation, we'll iron it out later on when we get it implemented and the courts can sort it out. Now, that's, again, like I was saying before, that's just so ill-considered and unnecessary.
And honestly, at the beginning of this, they're saying, oh, gosh, we don't have to have warrants for everything. Let's not have the courts be involved. But then they're saying, oh, no, we'll just put the courts at the bottom of the cliff. See how that plan works, right?
Yeah, to mop up the mess. And effectively, there's no need for that. We could just spend more time, be more thoughtful about this and get it done properly in the first place, instead of this can of worms that they create.
Now, as well as the submission that you're giving an opportunity for We the People to have a say in this, also today launching a petition so people can have their say about the legislation because, a few blokes standing up and say, we don't think it's a good idea is one thing. Having a petition with thousands of signatures certainly adds weight to that argument. How can people find out more about the concerns, have their say, be a part of the petition on this one, Nick?
Basically, go to our website and you'll see that there is a petition there. Our website, nzpillar.com. Very easy to find if you put in NZ first and then Pillar. And we just want more people to speak up on this and obviously join us in trying to get this pinned down and clarified so that we have a reasonable piece of legislation rather than a shoddy piece.
Really appreciate the work that you guys do. nzpillar.com for more details. So thanks for what you do. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Andrew.